Be'ezus Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Bava Metzia, daf Ayin. Okay, and we're going to start from the Mishnah on daf Samech Tes Amid Beis. As we've been discussing the past week here, few days here, is the kind of management where you would hire a manager to manage your investment. So the Mishnah said that if the manager of the investment guarantees against the loss, even if he guarantees 50% of the loss, then you have to pay him a wage. Because if you don't pay him a wage, it looks like you're giving him ribbas, because he's taking your money, splitting the profits, so that he didn't even put up any capital. So that is viewed as a loan because he's guaranteeing you to pay back at least half the investment, no matter what the loss is. Because of that, it looks like you're managing his investment, his half, where there is no guarantee against losses. You're doing it for free, and he's making money on that. So therefore, you have to, in addition for the investor also has to provide a wage. That's what we learned yesterday. But the Mishnah says it depends what it depends what your capital is. If you put up money, yes, you have to pay him a wage. But if you give him as an investment, shamin para v'chamar, you made a valuation and the investor put in a cow or a donkey. So what does the guy do? What does the money manager do with a cow and the donkey? He raises it and makes it better, trains it, or whatever he does. So, and then they split the profits. The one who provided the cow and the donkey, and the one who is working the investment. But here, you don't have to, you can just split the profits and you don't have to pay the guy a wage. Why? Because the cow and the donkey provide an income for the for the manager. Why? Because the cow could provide milk and the donkey could carry loads. So it does provide something on its own. So the one who put up the cow and the donkey doesn't have to pay extra. So the whole davar shu oisev anything that can work and provide for its food, you can make an arrangement lemechsa that you split the profits without the investor giving extra wages. Now, what happens? You're the manager and you're managing somebody's cow, and the cow gives birth. So do you have to return the cow back, or that's part of the arrangement that you're going to continue raising the babies? So it depends on the place that you live. Makom, if it's a place that they split the children right away. Cholkin. So the vlados, the offspring, as soon as it's born, they go back to the investor. So then you have to split it right away. Makom shenahago legadol. But if the minig is that the manager continues to raise the offspring, yagdilu, he has to continue to raise the offspring. Obviously, if he's raising the offspring, he's going to get half of the profits of that offspring as it grows. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says that you don't have to provide a wage if now that it's a baby calf, you don't have to provide a wage. For the cow itself, you don't have to provide a wage. We just said that in the Mishnah. But now that the manager is managing a calf, a baby cow, since you're also managing the mother, and you're raising the mother, you don't have to provide a wage for the calf because the calf always will go with its mother. What makes you need to provide a wage? Because you're working extra hard. You're going to have to hold the calf on your shoulder and carry it around. But if it's with its mother, it's always going to follow its mother. So that's what Reb Shimon ben Gamliel said. Shaman egel im imoy v'siach im imoy. A calf you can estimate with its mother, and a baby horse with its mother, and you don't have to pay an extra wage. Once you're raising the mother, you don't have to pay an extra wage for the calf, for the baby. And now the Mishnah concludes, Umafris al sodeu v'nechoishish mishim ribis. You can do something to your field, and there's no problem of ribis. What does that mean? And this is what we're going to discuss today, in the beginning of the Gemara. Tana Rabbanan, rabbis taught us like this. Mafriz al sodeu v'nechoishish mishim ribis. You do mafriz on your field, and there's no problem of ribis. Ketzah. Guy rents your field. Someone rents your field, mechavera, from his friend, And the deal is, normally you would pay ba'asara kurim chitim l'shana. Normally you would pay 10 cores of wheat for the use of that field for a year. You rent the field, and you have to pay the owner of the field 10 cores of wheat for the use of the field. But the guy went to the owner of the field and says, can you help me and give me a cash loan so I can invest in this field and make it even better by putting better fertilizer, better soil, etc. And what's the exchange? Not only am I going to, what I'm going to, I guess, he's going to return him the 200 zuz that he loaned for for the capital improvements, but he's also saying that instead of giving you 10 kur a year for the use of your field, I'm going to give you 12 kur. So that's what he says. And he says to him, "Tell me Messiah zuz, give me 200 zuz va'arfan and I will increase the value of this land. Besides returning you the 200 zuz that you're giving me, I'm gonna give you for the use of your land not the normal price of 10 kur for the year, but shnei masa kurim l'shana. I'm going to give you 12 kur for the year. That is mutter. So that is mutter. Now the question is, why is it mutter? He's borrowing 200 zuz, he's giving back 200 zuz, and he's giving an extra 2 kur per year for the use of the field. The answer is because once he invested in the field is a much more valuable field. And therefore the owner owns a field that to rent that field is 12 kur. So he's not really getting ribbis. That's not like ribbis for the loan, because the field itself went up in value. And therefore to rent such a field now would be 12 kur a year. If you have a store and the storekeeper says, I give you part of the profits, whatever it is, and now the storekeeper wants to ask you money to buy merchandise, and then he'll pay you even an increase of what he normally rents the store from you. So would that be considered ribbis? So that would be considered ribbis because the store itself doesn't go up in value. So how could he now offer to pay you a higher rental fee? And again, a ship. You rented a ship, and the normal rental price is such and such, and you need to borrow money to buy merchandise for the ship. That doesn't increase the value of the ship. So you can't say to the owner of the ship, okay, because you're lending me money to buy merchandise for the ship, therefore, I'm going to pay a higher rental fee for your ship. That doesn't work because that's ribbis. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Bavua, Pa'amim shemafis alachunus lotze boy tzura, svina lasses boy iskaria. In other words, if the use of the capital of the borrowing from the owner of the store, you're borrowing his capital. If the use is to increase the value of his store by lotze boy tzura, by putting up a mural so that it's more inviting for people to come into the store, or if you're renting a ship and you're using the investor's capital, the owner of the ship's capital to invest in the ship to make it a better ship, so then you're increasing the value of the ship, and therefore if you pay a higher rental fee, it's not considered to be ribbis. Svina lasas boy uskaria, a ship to make a better mast. That's not that's not a problem of ribbis. Chanus lotzaboy tsursa tzavaboy anusha v'haba agratfei. Once you make a mural in a store, so people are drawn to the store, and therefore to rent such a store costs you more money. So therefore, the renter of that store could say, okay, now I agree, because you lent me money to increase the value of the store, I agree now to pay you a higher rental fee for your store. That's not ribbis. Svina lasus boy uskaria. The Shapir is a ship to make a better mast. Once you make a better mast, that ship rents for more. So if you increase the rental of the ship because you borrowed money to make a better mast, that's not considered to be ribbis. Nu Gemara. Sfinta. A guy rents a ship. When you rent a car, let's say, if you guarantee any losses for that ship, you rented a ship, and you guarantee the loss, plus you're paying the rental fee, so that looks like a loan. You're borrowing the ship. You don't have to borrow money for ribbis. You can borrow a ship. He borrowed a ship because he's guaranteeing the loss of the ship, if something happens. Plus, you're paying a rental fee. That looks like ribbis. So Rav says that's not a problem. Rav said, Amarav, with regards to a ship, Agra, you could take a rental fee. Upagra, and the person that rents it can guarantee against the loss of the ship if any mishap happens to the ship. Amr lay Rav Kana, Rav Asi, Rav. So Rav Kana and Rav Asi said to Rav, I agra loy pagra. If you can collect a rental fee, you should not be allowed to guarantee losses. I pagra, if you're going to take a loss, if you're going to take the losses of the ship, loy agra, you should not have to pay the rental fee. In other words, doing both, is ribis. So Rav Kahana and Rav Asi challenged Rav's psak. Shosik Rav. Rav was quiet. That doesn't mean he agreed. He just was quiet about an answer. Amar Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes says, "My Tama Shosik Rav. Why would Rav be so silent? L'shmir hadatanya. It's an open brisa. Afal pisha amrei mekam tzayim bazim Yisrael mekam tzayim bazim and agoyim. Aval amru. Here's the key. This brisa says, Hasham para lechaberoi. If you take to manage the cow of your friend, v'amaloi. And he said to him, the manager said to the noisin, to the investor, I guarantee that no matter what happens to your cow, I'm going to return, even if the cow dies, I'm going to pay you 30 dinar for this cow. And to rent this cow, and I'm going to also rent the cow for a seller every month. It's mutter. Because he didn't pay the full value. Rav Sheshes explained it. That means that the guarantee when this guy rented the cow from his friend, he didn't guarantee against total losses. He only guaranteed that if it died or something, it broke apart the animal, then he guarantees against losses of the cow. However, if the cow went down in value, he's not guaranteeing any, and he's not going to pay the difference. Whatever it's worth. So any price fluctuation in the cow, he's not guaranteeing. So it's not a complete takeover of responsibility on this cow. That's why you're permitted to do so, and in addition to that, pay a rental fee. So because he didn't take the full responsibility, it doesn't look like a loan. And because it doesn't look like a loan, therefore you could actually pay a rental fee. So Rav, when you came to the ship, guy wants to rent the ship. If he guarantees against losses for that ship, but not guarantees total losses, and if the ship goes down in value, he's not guaranteeing that price, that if let's say the price of the ship goes down, he's not guaranteeing a full refund. So then it's not totally the renter's ship. It doesn't look like he's borrowing the ship. He's just taking partial responsibility for that ship. And because of that, it's not viewed as a loan, and therefore he can pay a rental fee. Rav Papa said, no, Hilchas said the halacha is svina. When it comes to a ship, agra, you can pay the rental fee, upagra, and you can also guarantee against losses. V'nahagu b'nei kufra, we go to Ayin Amar Aleph, v'nahagu b'nei kufra, agra b'shas meshicha, pagra b'shas shvira. And actually the people of Kufra, who were owners of ship, they would pay the rental fee, guarantee the rental fee when they moved the ship and did Mashiach on the ship, and Pagra, and they would guarantee against losses if something broke on the ship broke apart. So that was their minig to do that. So we see that that's the proper thing. You can buy, and it's not a problem of risk. You can pay a rental fee and also guarantee 100% against losses. So Rav Papa went even one step further than Rav. Said Gemara Auto Bimin Hagit Halim Milsa. Why does it say Nohago? How do you come up with this idea Nohago? Answers the Gemara, no, because the Brisa says the word minig. So therefore that the Brisa says it's mutter. That means that the minig was that they didn't guarantee against full losses only after the ship broke apart, but not if there was a price fluctuation in the ship. So only then it becomes permitted. So I guess the Bnei Kufra didn't guarantee total loss. They only guaranteed if it broke, like yes, it b'shas shavira, but not 100% loss. And because of that, they were allowed to pay the rental fee, and it does not look like ribbis. The new Gemara, Amar Rav Anan Amar Shmuel. Rav Anan said in the name of Shmuel, Ma'oy shel yisoymim muter lahalvos brubis. Fantastic thing. The let's say a father died and he left over money for his orphans. The overseer of the estate can lend out the capital for ribbis, even though they're Jewish. You're allowed to lend it out for ribbis. So because they're Yisayim, they're Ketanim, so it's permitted. Amalei Rav Nachman says, Mishum di Yasrininu Safini le Yisura, because they're Yisayim, we're going to allow them to do something, an Isser. They're Yisayim, but you're taking their money and lending it out with interest. Yasmi de Achlu de Lav Ditu, Lezel Basar Shavki Kail. Rav Nachman was so adamant about such an arrangement. He says, Yisayim, who are eating the ribbis, or are benefiting from this ribbis, they should go after where their father went. Basically, they should die like their father. But then Rabbi Anan said that Shmuel said, Moya Shel Yisayim, you're allowed to lend for ribbis. So Rav Nachman asked Rav Anan, how did you see Shmuel say such a thing? Tell me the story that you viewed Shmuel, that Shmuel said that the money belonging to orphans are allowed to be lent out in ribbis. Amalei, so Rav Anan said like this: I lived in Shmuel's house, and I saw what Shmuel did. Hahududa, there was this cauldron, right? The Bnei Mar Ukva that belonged to the kids of Mar Ukva. Mar Ukva died, and Shmuel was the manager of the assets of the kids of Mar Ukva, and there was this cauldron that was in the house of Shmuel, belonging to the orphans. The Have Bei Mar Shmuel Takel V'Yavle Takel V'Shakel. When he lent it out, he would weigh it, and when he took it back, he would weigh it. So basically, he would rent it out, and when they brought back this pot, let's say, he would weigh it again. And if there was something missing in the pot, let's say the pot weighed less upon the return, so shakel al, he took a normal rental fee, for shakel pchasa, and he took the loss of the weight in the pot. So we see that the renter, in the case of Shmuel, guaranteed against losses, and also paid a rental fee. So we see that Shmuel was dealing with the assets belonging to Yisayim, and he allowed the Yisayim to collect ribbis, even though Shmuel held that you can't pay a rental fee and also guarantee against losses. So that's how Rav Anan came to his conclusion that Shmuel holds Moyes Shel Yisayim muter lahalvoisim beribis. So sometimes you view something of the rabbi doing, and you extend it to beyond what the rabbi meant. So that's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says, first of all, Shakal agra v'shakal psach, agra le psach v'psach le agra. Shmuel wasn't allowed to take that. Amalei, so Rav Nachman said to Rav Anan, you made a big mistake. It wasn't that Shmuel made the renter guaranteed against losses. Even if they were adult Yisayimim, you're allowed to do that. That's not ribbis. It wasn't a guarantee against losses. The value of the copper that goes down. In other words, the kama de mikle, because you use this cauldron as a lot, the copper inside the cauldron in the pot is worth less. In other words, a guy rented the pot from Shmuel. So from whatever the loss of copper, that's wear and tear. Shmuel did not charge the renter for that. That's part of the rental fee, wear and tear, normal wear and tear. But then there's another part which Shmuel charged for that, which is that the copper that remains in the pot that you're returning is worth less because you used it under fire, and the copper that's used under fire becomes automatically worth less. That Shmuel made them pay. So, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. So therefore, it didn't look like ribbis. And therefore, Shmuel was allowed to take it because they're just paying up the difference of the loss of value of the copper that they received to the copper that they are returning. So the Gemara continues. Ama Rabba Bashelam Rav Chizdav Amile Ama Rabba Bar Yosef B'Chama Rav Sheshes. Moyes Shel Yisayimim. You're dealing with money belonging to Yisayimim. Mutar lahalvoisen karv l'sachav rachet lahafsid. You're allowed to make an investment that that is guaranteed that you're going to get a profit, and you're protected against losses. So that's an unfair type of investment, but for Yisayimim, you're allowed to do that. Tana Rabban, and it's only avak ribis, so in this case they went lenient. Tana Rabban, the rabbis taught, if you take on an investment that's karev l'sachar, that there's a high probability that you're going to get profits, v'rochik lehefsid, and it's very unlikely that you'll lose any money on this investment. So then you're Russia. You're Russia for taking on such an investment, because that's called a ribis investment, basically, where it looks like ribis, because what's a loan with ribis? You're almost guaranteed against losses, and you're most likely going to make a profit on it. So that's a Russia. But karev lehefsid v'rochik l'sachar, if you take on an investment, to help somebody get a business off the ground, where you take on the losses, the investor take on the losses, and it's very difficult to make a profit on it, because you're going to let the borrower or whoever taking on the management to take on most of the profit. Chassid, that's a chassid. If you're splitting the profits and splitting the losses, that's the normal way to make an investment. Amalei Rabba Rav Yosef. Rabba said to Rav Yosef, Hani Zuzid Yasme Hechav Dinalu. What do we do with the management if Yisayimim have a lot of cash? How do we manage that money? Amalei. So Rav Yosef said, Maisvinale Beis Dina, you put it in escrow by the courts, the Yavini Lehu Zuzah, and you give it to the Yisayimim a dollar by dollar. We give them allowance per week. Amalei. So Rabbah said to Rav Yosef, but if you allow the Yisayimim to use that money, they're going to use up all their principal. By the time they turn adults, they're not going to have anything. Amalei. So he says, Mar Hecha Avid. So Rav Yosef said to him, how would you suggest? What should we do? Amalei, he said, but kinin gavra the isli dahava pricha v'nektinin dahava minei v'yavnei lehal karvel sachav rachel lehefsid. You find a guy who's rich, who has like gold chips all around his house. In other words, it's really his money, those gold. We take a little bit of the gold chips to guarantee it against losses, and we tell him, listen, you invest the money belonging to the Yisayimim, you take on the losses, but if there's profits, you can split it with this. If you see a guy he looks rich, but he has big items in his house. So he looks rich, right? So that guy, the Gemara says, don't trust him that he's a rich guy who can guarantee against losses, because could be he's holding these large items, and these large items belong to somebody else. They're not his. He's just watching it. So you really have to find a wealthy guy that can guarantee against losses. That's the guy who you will invest with, who can manage the money of Yisayimim. Amar Rav Ashi says, that would be good if you have a person that has gold chips. If you don't find a guy who has gold chips, in other words, it's not so easy to find somebody who has little gold pieces around his house that you could automatically know for a fact that he's a rich guy that can guarantee against losses. So really, who do you find? Who's the most honest person to manage money belonging to Yisayimim? Alama Ravashi says like this: Chazin and Gavra the Mishapi Nichsai. We look at a person that doesn't have any lawsuits against him. He sounds trustworthy. Vishamin Din and Dairaisa, and he listens to the laws of the Torah. And he was never put into cherem by the Rabbanan. So basically, you find somebody with a shem tov, even though he's not rich, but anything that he has is uncontested. So then you know he's an honest person. That's the person that's the person is the perfect person to manage the assets belonging to Yisayimim. And they give it to him, but Beidina, that Beis Din gives him over the assets of the Yisayimim to try to make a situation where the Yisayimim will get a high return and a low probability of loss. We go to the Mishnah on Amud Beis. Another 2 minutes, we'll stop. Ein mekablen soin barzum Yisrael mipnei shiribis, mekablen soin barzum minagoyim. The Mishnah says that you can't take on an investor, cannot give to a money manager money that guarantees against losses, because that's ribis. but they can makabel and soim bazim in a goyim. But the investor could guarantee you. You can actually invest with a guy who's going to guarantee you against losses, because for a guy there's no problem of giving you ribbis. You can borrow from a guy and lend to a guy with ribbis. A ger toishev is a person that's makabel sheva mitzvahs b'nei noyach. If such a person, there's no issa ribbis, so that's not a problem. Ribbis is only Jew to Jew. Now, let's say you have a Jew who's managing money of a guy, and he wants to lend that money to another Jew. So with ribbis. Malva Yisrael ma'oser shel goy midas goy. Then you have to let the guy know about that you're lending another Jew the money. So it's for sure above board that it's really the guy that's lending the other Jew the money, and therefore you can make the arrangement where the borrower Jew could pay ribbis. Avaloy midas Yisrael. But not if the guy does not know about it. If just the one that's managing the money didn't tell the investor that he's lending this money to another Jew, in that case, then he would not be allowed to take ribbis. Okay, so we'll stop right over here. Let's just finish up another piece of the Gemara over here. The Gemara says, "Remember the b'shusta mikabel kaima." When someone who guarantees against any losses, that means it belongs to the manager. That means the item belongs to the manager. It's a total loan. So the Gemara says, "Raminu, I'll ask you a contradiction." Mishnah says in Bechoris, "Amakabel tzoynu barzim and a goyim." Someone who accepts tzoynu barzel from the goyim, that means a Jew who accepts an animal from a goy and guarantees against any losses. So not only is that animal, if it gives birth, you don't have to give to the bechor, to the kohen, but v'lados p'turim min ha-bechora, the offspring of that animal, even though part of those offsprings, let's say it had 10 offspring, belong to the Jew. When they give birth, you don't have to give to a kohen as well, because the owner is the guy of the animal. The original animal is owned by the guy. So the Gemara's question is, wait a second, but the Jew who's accepted upon himself to manage the guy's animal is accepting full responsibility, 100% of losses. And because of that, it should be viewed as the Jew's animal, and therefore it should be chayiv in Bechayra. So it's a stira to our Mishnah. So the Gemara says, Amar Abaya loikash, it's not difficult. When the Mekabel alei unsa v'zula, our Mishnah is talking about you guaranteed against 100% of the losses, even any mishap and any price fluctuations in the animal. That's called a total guarantee. No matter what, you're getting your animal back. But the other Mishnah Becharis, the loy kabel alei unsa v'zula, that's talking about a situation where he accepted against losses. Let's say if it broke or something like that, but he didn't mikabel on himself. In other words, it's the investor did not mikabel upon himself the onus if anything happens to it, or if the price fluctuations. So because of that, the Jew who accepted this animal didn't accept upon himself a total 100% guarantee against losses. Therefore, it's not viewed as the Jew's animal anymore, and therefore it's pata from Bechayra. Amalei Rava, so Rava said, then why does the Mishnah say Tzoyne Basel is usually you guarantee against 100% losses? And if you're telling me that the Mishnah Bechoris, he didn't guarantee against 100% losses, then why use the expression Tzoyne Basel? V'oid, Adatoni Sefer, the Brisa says, Al Makabel and Tzoyne Basel and Agoyim, Liflig Bididei, Bemedvar Makabel Unsa Vizula, Avakal Moro Unsa Vizula, Shapidonmi. By a Jew, you can make it doesn't matter who owns the animal. Even if the Jew owns the animal, when are you chayiv b'chayra? When are you chayiv b'chayra? Then if it's loy kabbalei unsa v'zula. But if you did accept the sales unsa v'zula, that would be perfectly fine. So Rava just answers the stira between the Mishnah in Bechoros and our Mishnah a different way. El Amar Rava idi loy kabbalei unsa v'zula. Be'ogaber Bechoros hayin tam to lois prunim nechuna kimi the loy of leizu asagai tafas lei behema v'loy mishkach lo behema tafas lei bilabaz havlei gad goy beemtza chol yad goy beemtza potem in Bechara. Basically, what the Mishnah is saying is that because If you guarantee against 100% of the losses, so it doesn't really belong to the Jew's animal, because when the Jew doesn't pay up, the guy is going to come take his animal back. So you can't view it as a totally Jewish animal, and therefore it's always going to be potter from Bechira, because whenever there's a guy that could reach in and take the animal in return, so it's not viewed as the manager's animal, and therefore it's potter and Bechira. But our Mishnah, when normally in a normal situation, when you accept 100%, if you're the manager and you accept 100% losses, that animal is viewed as you borrowed that animal. And therefore, when you guarantee against losses, if you don't accept a wage for the management of this investment, then it looks like ribbis. Okay, we're going to discuss this more in ribbis tomorrow.